You know what, guys, I'm tired. I am tired of talking about the weight figure of the new M5. Yes, it adds 500 kg because it's got that hybrid system that you see there. And we can focus on that fact if we really want to, but the fact of the matter is, we also end up with a V8 super wagon, something that is really rare these days, with these type of ultra performance big engine cars just slowly whittling away into the pages of history, joining the two Tourings before this one. And we can also focus on some other positives, like this is a performance V8 wagon that you can also buy in the USA and the rest of Europe. And you can buy it at a price that is actually semi-reasonable these days, with new car prices going crazy. At least in the UK, this is just a smidge under 115k, which really these days, for 727 horsepower, is a pretty good bargain. And of course, it's a huge positive that we're even getting an M5 Touring in the third generation, when the previous two didn't even sell that well. This is BMW M saying, we understand how much you love the M3 Touring, and we're hoping that you'll love this as well. Now, despite the positivity I'm spinning on this, we cannot ignore the negative sides that everyone has rightly brought up. Things like the weight, things like the hybrid system, the size of the car. And I completely agree. All of those points are completely valid. And rather than glossing over them, we're going to attack them directly today when we go on a first drive in this M5 Touring here in slightly damp Munich, and we'll see how it does on the road. So please join me as we dive in to the third generation of M5 Touring. So guys, today's episode is once again sponsored by Manscaped, and the best package that you can possibly get this holiday season for your facial hair and your beard needs. And it starts with this, the Chairman Pro. Now this is the ultimate face shaver that Manscaped have made, and it comes with two blade heads. The one that does your stubble is called the Skin Safe Stubble Trimmer, obviously. Super easy to put on and off. Then you have your Skin Safe 4-foil blade. That's going to give you that super close baby skin type finish. It's a 360-degree contouring head, regardless of what blade you're using. And the great thing is that this shaver has Flex Adjust technology, which basically means that it's got super adjustability in the head, making sure that the contact is maintained with your skin at all times. Or you can lock it on the side with this feature, should you want to be a bit more precise. Both, of course, feature that skin-safe technology, trying to help you stop irritation. And you can use both in the shower because they are both waterproof as well. But my favorite things about these is firstly USB-C, so you don't need any other cables. You've got a light, which is great for lighting up when you're under the neck, etc. And finally, it's actually got a screen on the front that tells you the exact battery percentage, which is just brilliant. With this package, you also get these two. These have been the missing pieces as I've been using Manscaped for years now, and I've been wanting this. First is the Power Shave Gel to prep your skin with a great lubricant that's been specifically designed for the Chairman Pro and is the perfect prep to get that super close shave. And then I'm even more happy about this. This is the Face Shave Soother. It's a great post-shave serum to reduce redness, razor bumps, ingrown hairs, and soothe the skin when you're done with everything else. So guys, like I said, the ultimate package for the next 12 months to take care of your facial aesthetics. Treat yourself, treat someone you love. Use the code RBR. You'll get 20% off plus free international shipping. So use that code RBR, 20% off and free international shipping. Huge thanks to Manscaped for supporting this episode, and for you guys for supporting our regular sponsors. Let's get back to the car. So guys, this is our 7th generation of M5 and the 3rd generation of M5 Touring, codenamed G99. It is the first ever hybrid M5. And as I said, we've got the V8 paired up with an 18.6 kilowatt battery, an electric motor that sits in between that engine and the 8-speed Steptronic gearbox. That V8 has seen a few mild updates, but it still only makes 585 horsepower, which is significantly under other variations of this V8, which make over 620. Maybe there's room for a higher version, let's see. But overall, this system does 727 horsepower, 1,000 Newton meters, and a slightly slower 0 to 60 versus our sedan. And to recap, that is V8 engine, electric motor, 18.6 kilowatt battery. Of course, the benefit of this is getting miles. We've got 67 kilometers worth of range, which we found to be the absolute reality with this car. So around about 40 miles worth of pure electric driving, which is good. And that charges up to 11 kilowatts in the Touring as well. The rest of the car sees the usual updates: M's adaptive suspension with electronic dampers per each wheel, rear wheel steering of 1.5 degrees, a rigid mounted variable steering rack. We've got the M differential paired with the MX drive, which is fully variable, so you get the drift mode, etc. All of this stuff you guys already know. And it's all of that that adds then the extra 400-ish kg versus the previous M5. And with the Touring, it's 100 kg over even the sedan M5. But what you have to ask yourself is, what were M's alternatives here? It was either really do this or go full EV, or reduce the engine size to say a 6-cylinder or a 4-cylinder like AMG have done, which none of you would have wanted. I'll tell you in unequivocal terms, there was no way for them to do a pure ICE car based on what the regulations are like, particularly in Europe at the moment. And what are the rivals doing? Porsche's doing the same with the Panamera, albeit without any Sport Turismo anymore. That's been cancelled. We don't know if AMG will do an E63, though thankfully Audi do seem to be doing an RS7 Avant, but we'll have to wait to see what that's like. So this is where the market is going. Now, despite all of that, it is 100 kg heavier than the sedan, and the only way to really see if this is a viable car, because it's got stiff competition from like the M3 Touring, even though it's not a V8, it's still an absolutely cracking wagon. So to really see it, let's give it a drive. Before that, a quick look in the interior and at the boot space, which I know is important for you touring buyers, before we head out. So this is the plain black interior inside the new M5. Please don't do plain black, unless you're going for New York taxi spec, then I'll forgive you. Otherwise, there's some really nice specifications, particularly the ones with the two-tone element, which look absolutely fantastic. And they really show the different parts of the M5 interior well, because it's a really nice modern interior actually. If you want to see what other specs you can get in the Touring, check out my last video, which was on the M5 sedan, the first drive, and we went through a ton of different colors, including the Touring, including the M Performance parts on a yellow Touring. So you'll get a good idea how you can customize this car to your own liking. In terms of things that are M specific, it really is quite a few things which are important. First of all, we still got our M setup and drive unit here, which is so important. So all of your interactions in terms of changing the driving modes all come within here. For example, the super important button here is M Hybrid, which is how this whole car works in terms of the system. Dynamic Plus comes as standard in the UK, which is the best driving mode in terms of sportiness. That gives you maximum drive power for short distances. So basically, when you're doing dynamic driving, and then you can also use that to go into fully electric mode, e-control, etc., or just drive in the standard driving mode. But you also have your usual M mode, where, for example, if you turn the car on, which turns on with the BMW, which as you saw turns on with the BMW electric sound, turns off with the electric sound as well. But yeah, if we go into sport, then here your screen in the front changes, just like you've seen in the M3 and the M4, etc. So that's all great. And then you've got the setup button here, which again you'll be familiar from other M cars, but then there's a lot more that you can tinker with, and this is actually quite a complicated car in that regard, because you've got energy recovery and other bits and pieces, and again you can save all of that into our configurations here. Right, happy with that for M1, and then M2 will be full attack mode on everything. So we'll be testing these out, but all of that is the same. You've got your M iDrive controller here, which is great. It's much safer to use the touchscreen using something like this rather than messing around with just the touchscreen. It's a shame we haven't got a proper gear lever, but you have got the start-stop button there, which is decent. Then we come to the steering wheel, which is an all-new generation M steering wheel. Looks great. Got the more interesting spoke with like the hollowed out area, and as we've seen in the past, the M1 and the M2 buttons, which are lit up in the M5, the first car that has a lit up version of these. And of course those can be configured. One slight disappointment is you don't get carbon fiber paddles like you do in M3 and M4. I wonder if they are saving that for a competition. I wonder if they're saving that element for a competition. There's little signs here like the down-powered V8, etc., that we could have a competition or even a CS of one of these. And then you have the whole ambient lighting setup of the new 5 Series in general, which is actually quite good, and it provides some interesting ambience in the interior. For example, this one is Indigo M, so it gives you the M colors, as you've seen probably in every single example, but you can go to different colors, give yourself a bit of a, and as you can see, you've got a choice of quite a few colors in here. Even, for example, something to match this car, you could go for a yellow look to brighten up this black interior a little bit. Now, the tech in this interior is something that's going to set it apart from M3 and M4. The tech and the way it's trimmed. Obviously, we've got much more use of Napa leather. The seats themselves, they're not like the more race-focused seats that you have in the M3 and the M4. They've got a more comfort application, which is not a bad thing. You've got the M5 logo on the back of them, which is nice with the USB-C, and the rear seats, loads of room in the rear. And just the general feeling of space and luxury is undoubtedly a few notches higher than those cars. And then, of course, you have the hybrid element, and we will talk about that as we go on a drive. Last thing is the boot. And you've got a really good boot in this because it's not compromised by, say, other manufacturers where they have the battery in the back. That's not the case here. We've got that battery in the middle, like we said. So a good low center of gravity, but that also means lots of boot space in the rear. You can fold down the seats to get even more, but you know, ignoring the seat folding, there's some good space in the back, and it's nice to see that that's not compromised. Now we're going to head out for the drive. So weird to hear the BMW electric sound to start up. You don't need to do that. You can just go straight into M1 and the V8 will come alive. That's what we want. So guys, let's head out and see how the Touring differentiates to the sedan. Now guys, this is how I would use this car. I'd put it into electric, and that's how I would start my day with the M5 Touring. So this is fully electric mode now, and I can imagine myself using this for school run, to and from work, groceries, all those kind of urban and non-performance drives, as I like to call it, where these plug-in hybrids really show their worth, because that is where we waste, as performance car drivers, so much money on fuel, because our cars, they're not geared up for that type of driving, right? Indeed, when I had my M3 Touring for that wonderful 1 and a bit years, that was the only thing that I could get decent MPG on a longer trip, but it's these shorter trips where it just get absolutely screwed on miles per gallon and the amount of fuel that's being used. So this is really a thing that pulls me towards, I know it's not a typical M5 thing, but given the fact that we have to go in this direction, it's hard as a buyer not to kind of appreciate this fact that instead of wasting tons of money, you know, it's relatively cheap to charge up the electric 18.6 kilowatt battery in there and get this nonsense done. Now, it'd be remiss of me not to say that the mileage that's being quoted on the Touring is correct. So it's about 67 kilometers, so you know, 40-ish miles, whatever it is, which is a decent amount. It's tons better than what AMG are doing. It's about on par with Porsche and the Panamera. And honestly, even in the limited, you know, 190 odd horsepower of the EV system, it's not a slow car. You know, it's all right. It's enough for in-town stuff. It certainly picks up speed. So you can do that in complete quiet, relative comfort, and then when you're ready, pop it into M2 and awaken the V8 and have some fun with the M5 as intended. Now let us begin where we always must begin, which is with a launch control. For that we need to go into M2 and make sure that our ESP is on MDM. Now on the sedan we managed to achieve 3.19 seconds, which is pretty damn good considering the official figures were what, 3.4, 3.5. Let's see now what the Touring does in comparison. Launch control active. Not a clean launch. It's the same. 3.2 seconds, and that is damp conditions. Not the cleanest of launches in the world. Actually, I think it deserves one more go. Let's give it one more go and see what it gets. Launch control active. Cleaner launch. Exactly the same as the sedan, 3.19. So 3.19, 3.2 basically, which considering that this is, you know, almost 100 kg heavier, it's pretty damn good going. Now it's very damp out here today. Okay, this is a heavy car, an extremely powerful car. So though it's got X-Drive and it's quite able to deal with these kind of conditions, we do have to be a little bit careful. I'm going to put some speed on now. Let's see how this fares versus the sedan, which was, I found to be very capable. That weight figure very quickly became a less relevant thing when you realized where the center of gravity was, how the stiffening and the adaptive suspension, all the magic that M is used to doing was all coming into play and helping to hide that weight. Now, in terms of generally driving the Touring, I found that the steering to me feels a little bit heavier versus the sedan. But I'm not opposed to that, actually. I quite like having heavier steering in my M cars. Now, one thing I love about this overall car is the hybrid system. This BMW V8, it's been great in all of the cars it's been in, and it's no different in here. It's just that you get this pre-gearing stage with an extra 450 Newton meters of torque that is available all the time. And essentially what that feels like with the electric motor is this unending power reserve all the time. In every gear you're in, the car has so much power, which is great. So in terms of speed, in terms of power, as you would expect out of a 727 horsepower V8, it's not lacking at all. So I like the V8, I like the hybrid system, that all works great. One thing that I don't like so much is the gearbox, which has just the biggest delay. Even if we go into M2 mode, let's do that. That brings everything to the highest setting, you downshift. As you saw there, it's a good second and a half slow, fourth gear to third. The number changes there, but the gear doesn't change till at least a second and a bit later. Now, I wonder, I've had a thought about this since I was driving the sedan. Is it because we have the electric motor in between where we have our engine and our gearbox? Is there some delay going on there? Is it engineered in for some reason to keep this car a bit more comfortable in terms of gear changes? Has this same 8-speed Steptronic torque converter in the M3 and the M4, particularly in LCI, does such a good impression of like a dual clutch box, of shifting decently, particularly in these higher modes. Like, I wouldn't mind it in the comfort mode, but in these more sporty modes, it's literally deterred me from using the gears. And then I kind of just let the car just change gears by itself and focus on the art of driving. And then that's when the Touring is actually pretty damn good, where just like the sedan, it hides its weight so well. I'm not going to push it too hard in these damp conditions, but very similar feeling to that car. The body control is good, the rigidity is good. It doesn't feel overtly uncomfortable like many M5s of the past. You know, the adaptive suspension with the electronic dampers doing a good job there. Turning is nice, you can feel the rear wheel steer kind of shrinking the size of the car. And as soon as you hook up the front, you can pile down the speed with the X-Drive, and there's so much power to put down. So all of that is good. It's just like the sedan. So you're not going to come into the Touring and think, right, because it's X amount heavier, I've lost on the launch control, I've lost on the dynamics element. It's still pretty much the same. It still feels kind of less M5 and more ultra fast 7 Series in a lot of ways. And I don't know how I feel about that. This has always been more of a complete hooligan car, the M5, right? And that's not to say that this can't pick up massive speed or do some crazy directional changes, and I would much prefer this over an EV, and I'll say that again and again. You know, this is a car that you'll jump into, and because of the engine, because of the format, because of the way that it looks on the road, you'll feel like driving fast. You'll feel like tapping into those reserves of power. You've got a lot of V8 noise coming into the cabin, which is, of course, most of it is engineered in, but you know, it's so much nicer than having an unsuitable engine or having an EV sound. You know, I'm here for it. I want to drive fast in this car. Though I think if I wanted an M car for the hooligan aspect, for the pure element of doing dynamics and speed, I would go for the M3 Touring. That has kind of creeped into the arena of the old M5. It's so fast now, it's so capable, you know, and it's so well appointed as well, to be fair. This new generation of M5, I'd want it for different reasons. I'd want it to do bits of that, but then also have the daily element as well in a way that that car cannot. You know, the M5 has the ability to put down the power, etc., but when I want it to, I can go into M hybrid mode. I can choose either hybrid or go into full electric. Everything calms down. Look, it's quiet. Absolute silence. And I've got almost 200 horsepower of only electric driving, 40 miles odd. And I think in the increasing costs of this day and age, that would pull me towards this car. And then the other side I would choose it over the M3 is because, to me at the moment, it just seems a lot more comfortable. It's hard to judge on the perfect German roads, but I'm pretty convinced, given my experience with the rest of the 5 Series range, this is going to be a lot more comfortable. The M3, though good, there were times that, you know, it just wasn't near the executive level, whereas this can do a really good impression, particularly in hybrid and electric mode. Plus, the fact that the prices are so close to something like an M3 now, and the prices are so much better than its rivals, it's kind of hard not to gravitate toward this, thinking that you're probably going to end up losing a bit less versus other cars. Certainly other cars of this level, I would say, and that I think means a lot. And again, I would repeat, this is, I think, one of the best looking new cars on the road. A lot of people disagree. I really like the exaggerated looks of this. The exaggerated E60 looks of this M5 generation just really work for me. So in conclusion, this is, I think, serving a different part of the market than the M5 traditionally would have in the past. It's doing much of the same with insane speed and really impressive dynamics, considering that this is 2.5 tons. But equally, it has this daily side of it that super saloons just haven't had properly before. You know, Panamera's done it in the past, been very heavy and unwieldy. The GT63S has done it in the past, again heavy and unwieldy. This is much, much better. It's much more dynamic, much more like the new Panamera, much more like the newer EVs that are heavy but really dynamic, like the Taycan. And for me, who's a frequent buyer of these ilk of performance cars, it is the only new performance car of this ilk that I am even remotely interested in. A, because of the price, B, because of the fact I get to have my V8 cake and my EV cake and eat it. And that really, it's a really interesting combination that I want to see last for years and years. So guys, I hope this first drive of the M5 Touring was useful to you. If it was, please do like and subscribe to RBR. Our next M5 video, we're going to be exploring the full history of the M5 in some detail, which is going to be great fun. So a huge thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.